What's up, Ron here, and today we're looking at the St. Petersburg White Nights paints. What's up, Ron here. Thank you for joining me in another video. So a friend gave me a few St. Petersburg paints in pans, full pans. This is empty. I already emptied it, and you can see it here. So this is what we're going to look at in just a moment. The St. Petersburg White Nights, they're pretty popular here in Israel, and so I thought I'll give them a try. I'm pretty much sure that the brands I usually use are a little better, or are at least considered a little better, but I'm open to trying these out. I have here the Cadmium Red Light, I have Yellow Ochre, French Ultramarine, Umber, Burnt Umber, and Black. So we're going to take a look at all of these, then test out some mixes, and who knows, maybe I'll use these. We're going to see, we're going to have to test them out and see what they look like. So anyway, let's change the angle and get started. Okay, so this is what these look like. I've got several of those. I have the Cadmium Red Light, I have Yellow Ochre, and I have the Ultramarine here on my Schminka palette. I just put it on the side here. So these are the primaries, and then we've got Neutral Black, Umber, and Burnt Umber. Okay, so as I mentioned, a friend gave me those, and what I want to do is we'll open these up, and you will see what they look like. These are, of course, full pans, so large, longer pans. We've got the primaries here, so Ultramarine, Cad Red Light, and Yellow Ochre. And then we have the other ones here, the Umber, Burnt Umber, and Neutral Black. And in the middle, I want to play around with some mixes of the primaries, okay? So let me show you just one of those, and then we're just gonna set them down here, and I'm just gonna demonstrate what each of these look like. So this is the Cadmium Red Light. And the pan itself is transparent, so you can already see the red coming through it, okay? And it's a bit sticky, and this is what it looks like on the inside. Okay, so I'm gonna open all of these up, and then we're gonna start swatching and taking a look at what these look like. So I just wanted to show you up close. The packaging on these isn't as neat as some of the other brands. They were a bit not wet, but when you touch them they do leave a trace. At the black, the neutral black, actually the aluminum foil thing is just got stuck to it. This weird glue that they use for the packaging crumbles, and it leaves this weird debris that you can see here. But anyway, I'm gonna test out the quality of the paints themselves. So let's get started. So I don't want to bash on these just yet. We're gonna test them based on the color quality. I'm gonna use my palette here just for some of the mixes, but it's not really that important, and sometimes I'll just not use it. And I'll just go straight from the pan to the paper. So first off, we have the Ultramarine, and this one again I have on my palette itself, okay? So this is basically what it looks like. I really have gotten used to using some cooler blues, and since then I really can understand why people say this looks kind of like an electrical blue that isn't as natural, so that's funny. But anyway, let's test this. This one I've used quite a few times in the past for just painting different views and things like this, and I'm already pretty familiar with it. It's good. This Ultramarine, it actually mixed quite well with Daniel Smith's and with Schminka, so with this one I'm pretty pleased. I heard that their Ultramarine especially is good. So I don't know what that means in regards to the rest of the paints. We're just gonna have to test them out. This one can achieve quite a nice range of values, so you can get it to be pretty dark. Now, in terms of additional information, I'll try to include everything I have in the description box. So if you want to check it out. And almost none of these are single pure pigments. Most of these, especially these ones, are mixtures. They're Yellow ochre is also a mix, by the way. The red, cadmium red, I believe, is a pure, yeah, that's a PR 108. If you're curious, I don't remember the ultramarine, but I will mention the next ones, just in terms of the pigments. And later on, you can find more information online or in the description box. So anyway, let's pick some of that cadmium red light, and let's take a look at this on the palette. So pretty bright one, kind of reminds me of the Schminka and the Pyrrole Scarlet and all of those. So let's test it out and see what it looks like here on paper. So very vibrant. It's really interesting to see. It is a single pigment. I would expect good things from it, just like the Ultramarine. These are kind of praised. The St. Petersburg White Nights are pretty much praised here in Israel. For me personally, I still prefer to stick to my my favorite brands, but I did want to try these, and if they work for me, I'll definitely use them. Especially I think for my outside, when I'm working outside, or maybe even just for practice. So anyway, this is in terms of the cadmium red light. It is PR 108, okay? You can see it here, hopefully. PR 108. I'm not sure about this 3 here, the 3 stars. Maybe it's the Lightfastness. I will again add any additional information I have in the description box. Let's see if I can see anything else interesting here. No, it seems like there's just a catalog number or something like this. So anyway, we'll move on to the yellow ochre, and let's take a look at this one. Okay, the first thing I can already tell you is that this one's pretty weak. For a yellow ochre, I seem to need to use a lot of it just to get it to be a little darker. Not sure in terms of the transparency, it doesn't necessarily have to relate, even if it's a bit weak, but it's interesting to check out how transparent this is. It's really weird because I'm not used to ochres being so, you know, weak, and there was this weird blue spot here that maybe you can see. I don't know, it came with it when it was packaged, so that's a bit weird. The packaging is definitely a little less graceful than some other things. Just for comparison's sake, if I grab some of Schminka's yellow ochre, you're gonna see the difference in strength. So immediately this one overpowers it. You can see I don't have to use a lot. If I actually use it here, well, the difference isn't that significant. So this is the yellow ochre, which is composed of okay, so this is Pigment Brown 7, PBR 7. Again, 3 stars here. Not sure what that means. So this is in terms of the yellow ochre. Now we're gonna test out some of the other ones, not the primaries. So it's really interesting because this is the umber, and I expected the burnt umber to be darker, but it actually is not. Now the umber has this touch of green to it. I will show you the pigments it's made from in just a moment. So this one's pretty weak as well. I don't like when the earth tones are weak. It's a pet peeve of mine, I guess. So I'm gonna struggle with this one for sure. I had an umber by I think I have umber by Daniel Smith and umber by Winsor Newton Cotman or maybe Van Gogh. My old Van Gogh, and you can't even compare them. The Daniel Smith's one is really strong, and the Van Gogh is so weak. You have to work it really hard just to get some kind of some kind of dark value from it. So it seems to be the case here as well. A bit on the weak side. Now let's try the burnt umber. The good thing is I'm pretty... Oh, and by the way, again, the umber... This is the burnt umber. I just want to let you know what it has in it. So the umber has, we have pigment here, hopefully you can see this, pigment yellow 43, pigment brown 7, and pigment black 7, okay? So the greenish yellow, oh, so yeah, the greenish yellow feeling is from there. So anyway, now we're looking at the burnt umber, and this one is a bit more red, I guess. Let's check it out. And really, I have to say, even if I don't like these ones, the primaries still look good, which I think is what's important, really. I don't need too many fancy browns or, you know, I really don't find myself using them this often. So the burnt umber is great. I really love this one. I think if I add a bit of red to it, it will just turn into kind of a burnt sienna-like color, but I have to say this one is much better. I guess umber could be weak. Maybe it's not specifically with this brand. But anyway, oh, the black is really strong. Already I can I can show you. I just put a little bit and it's really strong. So this one is good, and I can recognize a hint of maybe some blue to it. And yeah, let's take a look at the burnt umber components. So this one is pigment brown 7. I don't remember if I showed you. Sorry that if I confuse you a bit. So this is the burnt umber. And now for the black, we have here pigment red 187. We have pigment blue 15, which is, I'm not sure, I don't remember off the top of my head, but it does have a feeling of a bit of blue or phthalo blue even. Pigment black 7. So they love the pigment black 7. They use it in quite a lot of paints. So yeah, this one is rather strong. I think this will be a great one for maybe just experimenting with monochromatic paintings or things like this. Maybe even use it like ink. I like that it's strong. I won't have to use much of it, and I will get a lot out of it. So I already can find some merit to these. The only one that I'm a bit disappointed by is the umber, but that isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think it's also good to have one brown that's maybe a bit on the weak side. So anyway, this is it in terms of just the swatches. What I want to do next is try out some mixtures here and see what it looks like and what kind of a range we can get with these 3 primaries. So we're gonna start off, I think, by mixing the blue and red here. So I'm gonna grab a bit more of the ultramarine. I'm gonna add a bit of red. I'm gonna keep it fairly non-contaminated for now. And let these 2 mix together. And we're just gonna see what we can make out of this. So, kind of a muted, I guess, I don't even know what to call that. It's sort of in the middle of everything, but let's try and make it darker and let's contaminate it, I don't care. So we're basically getting, it's not really a purple or violet. It is pretty gray, so they do gray one another, I guess. I don't know how to define this exactly, but this is what you get of mixing both of these. Next up, let's take a 180 and actually try and mix the yellow ochre. So I'm gonna make sure I don't touch the yellow ochre of Schminka. So I have this yellow ochre here. I'm gonna put into this the cadmium red as well. And let's test it out and see what kind of orange we can produce here. So again, pretty weak, I guess, orange. Let's try adding a bit more paint to it, making it a little stronger here. If I let the red kind of be dominant, then it's pretty clear, you know. It's pretty close to the red now. Let's try and yellow it a bit more. So the yellow ochre isn't that strong, I guess. I'm gonna use a bit of water here in this mixture. But in any case, that's kind of the orange we can expect to get. And finally, let's test out the greens. So, from what I remember, French ultramarine and yellow ochre, or rather just ultramarine and yellow ochre, don't produce the brightest greens, but we'll give it a try here and see what we can get. So I'm putting here some yellow ochre. I don't want to touch that blue, but maybe we'll touch it later on just as a fun little bonus and see what we get out of it. And now I'm going to use, the blue here. And I'm going to mix these together. So yeah, it's like the Velasquez palette. It's pretty muted and kind of dead green. I'm going to add a bit of blue here and a bit of the yellow just directly next to it, just to create that kind of impression of an interesting transition, I guess. So all of these combinations are kind of not necessarily the most vibrant. The funny thing is I like them. I think there's a lot of value in that, actually. So it's really interesting. I think I will play around with these quite a bit and just test out and see what I can produce of them. This green is pretty nice, actually. I'm gonna, just for fun, I'm gonna try out the blue here and see what happens. I have no idea what that is. It's just leftovers probably from another pan. I don't know exactly how their packaging process works. It kind of mixes with the yellow, so we get this weird green. In any case, it looks kind of like cobalt or cerulean or something like this, but I don't know. It could be anything, basically. So there you have it. These are all of the mixes of the St. Petersburg White Nights. Sorry about the palette noise. These are, in terms of the primaries, here's the packaging, again, just to remind you. In terms of the primaries are pretty neat, I guess. I like the way they look. And their mixes are rather interesting if you don't care to have it a bit muted. And these ones are pretty cool too. I don't use black almost at all, so it could be good just for some exercises and things like this. The burnt umber is rather nice. You know what? Let's do one final kind of fun thing and test out the burnt umber just with a bit of red. I want to see what it will look like, and when you mix the two, so you get kind of another orange-ish kind of color. I will have to play around with these and see how I find them. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this one. So let's change the angle and wrap up this video. So as sometimes this happens, I remember that I want to show you or just give you a better look really up close. So I'm just gonna hold the camera and really show you the details of what this looks like. Here are the primaries and some of the mixes. Finally, we have here the rest of the paints. And just in terms of the pans, if you want to get a better look at them, this is what they look like up close. Very interesting, just very interesting colors that I'll have to play around with more, but in any case, now we can wrap up this video. So I hope you enjoyed this quick demo and review. My impression of these is that I'm definitely gonna use them for sure in outdoors painting, but also probably just in exercises and when I'm practicing or working on the basics. I like how the primaries look. They do have a strong vibrancy aside from the yellow ochre, which is okay. But yeah, these are just, I'm pretty much pleased with this, and especially the black, which I will use for some monochromatic exercises, because I was actually looking for one to use for that, and the current blacks I have aren't that good for that. So anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you still haven't, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Also, check out my podcast. I will put a link in the description box below. I think you're really gonna love this. I talk about many different topics such as art, creativity, productivity, the business of art, my artistic journey, watercolor. I published a few really fun episodes. The last one I think you will really love. So be sure to check that out. Also follow me on Instagram and Snapchat if you want to see more works in progress, things of that nature. And I will see you again in another video really soon.